The structure for the webinar is basically I would introduce you to the whole audience, and then I would give a quick brief about the BIG program. I would try to wind up everything within 10 to 12 minutes. And then we would go direct into the Q&A session. I would ask you a couple of questions, sir, that we've already gone over. And then we would take all the questions which would be asked live by the participants.
Sure.
Yeah. So once again, I welcome all the audience for dialing in for the webinar today. And we really hope that you would find this webinar insightful and will take some tips for securing BIG fund, which is of 50 lakh rupees from Dr. Rao. Dr. Rao has mentored as well as chaired and co-chaired a lot of BIREC review meetings. So that's the reason why the SIIC team thought it would be good to have him so that we can we can bring his insights and perspective, what goes into the evaluation round, to the audience. I'm assuming most of you are either aspirants for the current call for BIG or have already applied in BIG but unfortunately got rejected, or are currently under the process of being reviewed in the BIG 17th call. So for all the people in all the three categories, you would find this session very, very enlightening and useful. So I see we have 40 participants who have dialed in so far. Let's wait 2 more minutes, sir, and then we can start.
Sure thing. We are all set. Yeah.
So Dr. Rao, while we are waiting for a few more people to dial in. Okay, cool. We've got 53 people who have dialed in for the webinar. So I think this is a good start, and the others would dial in. In the Q&A chat box, so there's this person called Tejovati Gudipati. He has actually, I am really sorry, he or she has expressed the desire to know about your work in biogenic nanomaterials and biochemistry. So maybe we can take this question towards the end of the session, because this is more related to your research work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So without any further, let me welcome you to this webinar. And as I stated earlier, this webinar, we are trying to bring key insights into why some of the people are able to get and secure the BIG funding while others can't, and what is more important? Is it the idea or the way you articulate it or the way you present it? How much preliminary data is enough, etc.? So we would be answering all these questions in this webinar. Um, for the webinar, we have our expert, Dr. N. Madhusudan Rao, who is currently the CEO of the Atal Incubation Center that we have at Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology in Hyderabad, CCMB, also known as CCMB. So Dr. Rao is a senior research fellow at CCMB, as well as he coordinates CSIR network program on nanomaterials and nanodevices involving various other institutions. He has PhD in biochemistry and masters in agriculture, which roots his research interest into protein engineering and cell biology of gene delivery. So I welcome you, Dr. Rao. Thank you so much for accepting our request.
Thank you very much for roping us in this whatever fight chat.
Yeah,
Very happy to share whatever we have some experience in BIG program. Yes.
Sure. Thank you, sir. The structure for this particular webinar is I would speak about the basics of BIG funding program for next 10 minutes, and then Dr. Rao is all yours to, we can bombard him with all our questions. So yeah, I'll just quickly share my screen and we can start the presentation. I hope my screen is visible. Okay. Yeah. Rishi, can you please tell me if my screen is visible?
It is visible.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. Cool. So before I get into the main part of the presentation, hi, I'm Aditi and I'm currently AVP of bioprograms at the incubation center that we have at IIT Kanpur called Startup Incubation and Innovation Center. And for last 20 years, we have been into the business of mentoring, nurturing startups into all across the sectors, be it the medical sciences or health or agriculture or clean energy, etc. So we are a sector agnostic incubation center. I'm also proud to say that during the lockdown and the last year, we were able to support 3 of these startups who commercialized COVID-related solutions and are happily selling products in the market. So you on the top left side of the screen, you can see Swasa N95 mask, which has been developed by our startup called Eastern Nanotech. And as you can see, our Prime Minister has also flaunted this webinar, this mask. Then we have Noka Robotics, who developed ICU grade ventilator for treating critically ill COVID patients. Then we have Bespoke Health Services, who has developed a disinfection chamber. And the last one is not related to COVID, but this is a startup called Kritsnam Technology, and they have developed a water monitoring system, which is now being used for irrigation facility. And they have also been one of the BIG grantees. So as I said, we have been into business for last 20 years. And over these years, we have been able to develop and create a very exhaustive ecosystem to support these startups, and funding is one of the core services that startups look forward from our incubation center. And as you can see, we've got funding support right from the ideation up to the market and the commercialization. This webinar is focused on one of these schemes called BIG. So BIG stands for Biotechnology Ignition Grant, and this is a scheme started by BIRAC to promote innovation and entrepreneurship at an early ideation stage. And this scheme can be availed either by an individual, and this individual could be an Indian citizen with a graduate degree. So this person can be either a faculty member or an independent research fellow, or could be a research fellow with associated with any academic institution or research institution, or a simple graduate person who might be or might not be employed with any organization. And this scheme is also open for startup, but the startup has to be less than 5 years old from the current call of application. So for example, this call is from 1st January till 15th February 2021. So the startup needs to be either registered on or after 1st January 2016. So the startup has to be less than 5 years old. This scope for this particular funding program, BIG, covers early ideation stage, and it's a prototyping fund which helps the innovator in developing a proof of concept around that particular idea, and develop a fully functional prototype, and also conduct the validation of the prototype. Necessarily for BIG, the technology readiness level has to be less than 3, or at max equal to 3. For more information on this TRL analysis, you can simply Google BIREC and TRL analysis, and you can look at the chart that BIREC has prepared for analyzing and identifying the correct TRL level for your innovation. So this is a funding program which provides 50 lakh rupees of funding to the innovator. A new addition has been there in this particular program. So now BIREC charges 5% royalty from all the BIG grantees once the BIG grantee has commercialized the particular product which has been supported by BIRAC. And this sharing of royalty continues till the time BIREC has not recovered the total amount of fund which was invested into the into the innovator or the startup. So the total duration of this funding program is for 18 months, and we have not seen any case wherein the project got extended beyond 18 months. It has happened in some of the cases, but BIREC is quite particular as far as the duration of the project is concerned. And this particular funding program is not a research grant, although research is a very it's a critical component of the whole idea, the ideas that get supported under BIG, but there has to be a commercialization potential associated with the idea. As long as there's no market value for the idea that you're pitching, it's not possible for you to get the BIG grant. So there has to be a market value as well as an innovative idea associated in either of these three things. So if you look at the BIREC guidelines, they've enlisted a lot of themes which get supported under BIG, but for everyone's convenience, I have put them into three broad categories. One is healthcare, the other one is industrial biotechnology, and the third one is agri-tech. So healthcare encompasses all the ideas related to biopharma, medical devices, diagnostics, veterinary sciences, and other related areas. It also includes AI and ML as well as IoT driven solutions. Same goes for industrial and agri-tech. So now BIREC is open for solutions which are backed up by artificial intelligence and IoT. So as far as industrial biotechnology is concerned, the ideas could be either related to enzyme technology or bioprocess, or creating waste to value and other related areas. Then coming to agri-tech or agriculture technology. So you could propose an idea which could be related to plant diagnostics, or developing machinery for particular processing, or seed technology, etc. So these are some of the success stories that we have from SIIC, and I've again categorized them theme wise. So as you can see, we've got a medical device startup getting fund. We have got a faculty member, Professor Harlal Mali from MNIT Jaipur, so who wants to develop an orthosis device for treating clubfoot disease amongst the newborns and the early age children. Then we have got a diagnostic company which is trying to develop an early preeclampsia detection device, which is based out of Pune. Then we have in the industrial biotechnology, we have again the kind of startups that have got BIG from us. All three of them are into waste to value. So as you can see, Duosis Bioinnovation is trying to develop a pectin substitute from agriculture waste. Then we have Kanpur Flower Cycling, who is developing a leather substitute from flower waste. Then we have Inviron Industries, who's developing compostable plastic from poultry farm waste. In agriculture, we have a variety of the startups who have got BIG fund. This is an individual called Ajit Matthew, based out of Kerala, who is developing a cocoa bean separating machine. Then we have Kritsnam Technology, again a startup incubated at SIIT Kanpur, and also the co-founders also happen to be our alumni. So they are developing water monitoring device, which can eventually be used for preparing an irrigation advisory system. So this is also IoT enabled. So as you can see, IoT enabled solutions are also funded under BIG. Then we have Transpect Technologies. So this startup is basically founded by one of our faculty members, Professor Deepak Gupta. So what he has done is he has developed a 3D tag which can be printed on a paper and can be put on any commodity to prevent counterfeiting of that particular product. And this product has huge utilization in the case of agriculture seeds, pesticides, and medicines. So this is again a very interesting project and a very interesting case study for you to understand that there is a variety of projects that get funded under BIG. And you need to understand that biotechnology is an interdisciplinary field. It includes components from mechanical engineering, electronics, etc. So it is not just limited to developing biopharma related or in vitro, in vivo related solutions. So in order to apply for BIG, and as I said, 15th February is the last date to apply. All you need to do is just go to BIREC website and register yourself. After you've obtained the login credentials, you can start filling the application form. While you're filling the application form, you need to select a BIG partner. So this particular scheme, BIG, is facilitated across the nation by 8 BIG partners, which have been chosen by BIREC. And so it is mandatory to facilitate or channelize your application through one of these 8 BIG partners. I would come to the importance of BIG partner in the in next couple of slides. Now you must be wondering why BIG. There are other schemes as well, and why can't I fund and yeah, of course, if you can fund your own idea yourself, nothing like that. But if you're wondering why BIG and why not other schemes, so let me tell you one thing, that BIG, BIREC has actually created an exhaustive ecosystem through support entrepreneurs who are working in the field of biotechnology. And as you can understand, this is a very capital intensive field. You require equipment, you require research facility to conduct your basic R&D and then develop the prototype. So BIREC is a very good medium to enter into this family of BIREC, so that you can get assured follow-on funding through these other programs that BIREC is running. For example, after you clear BIG, you can avail SIBRI funding. So almost 90% of BIG grantees get this SIBRI funding for scaling up of the idea. And then we have this funding scheme called Seed Fund and Leaf Fund, which basically acts as bridge, a bridge funding. So again, SISC IIT Kanpur is one of the partners for facilitating seed funding. For Leaf funding, we have other partners like IKP, FITT, Venture Center. So you, beyond 50 lakh rupees, you have got other schemes that you can avail because you have established your credibility as a BIG grantee, and this funding support goes up to 1 to 1.5 crore rupees. Mm. But another thing that you need to take care of is this funding program is highly competitive. Only 10% of the total number of applicants actually secure the funding. So, and that's why, this webinar becomes more important, because we'll get to listen to Dr. Rao and, learn the expert's opinion on how to bulletproof your BIG proposal. So I think in the Q&A chat box, I saw someone putting the question, what is the budget distribution? So the 50 lakh rupees are divided into different budget heads. You can buy your own equipment, you can hire manpower, you can file patent using BIG funding rupee. Then you can travel, you can attend some of the conferences or the startup meet that keep on happening every now and then. You can also outsource some of your R&D or some of your prototype related work to a third party. So you get funding. You can use BIG fund to do all these work. Then as far as the evaluation process and criteria is concerned, there have been some changes that have happened in last two calls. So now the evaluation process begins with preliminary screening, which is done by the which is done by the BIG partner. In case you select SISC IIT Kanpur as BIG partner, then we do the preliminary screening, which primarily includes whether the proposal is up to the mark or not, if it's complete, etc. Then the online reviewing of the BIG proposals begin. So all the proposals that BIREC have received are randomly allotted to amongst all the 8 BIG partners. And then those 8 BIG partners, depending upon what are the proposals that have been assigned to us, we identify the experts, relevant subject experts as well as business experts, and the proposal is sent to 5 reviewers, 3 technical and 2 business. And in order to for a proposal to qualify for the next round, which is the TEP round, the proposal must get at least 3 recommendations or 3 yeses from the online reviewers. So once the proposal has been recommended for the next evaluation round, which is the TEP or technical evaluation round, this is the round wherein you prepare a pitch and you pitch in front of a technical evaluation committee. So as I was saying in the introduction, Dr. Rao has been a part of such evaluation meeting for quite some time. So taking his insight would be really helpful for you guys. And then the entire committee gives you a score. And then in the final round, which is the expert selection screening round, the committee decides a particular cutoff. So if your proposal has been scored above then cutoff, that's when you get the BIG funding. In case you receive a lower score, which is lower than the cutoff, then you get rejected. So this is the overall evaluation process. And on the right hand side of the screen, you can have a look at the evaluation criteria. So what we have seen in the past is it is very important for you to have a very strong team. Try to incorporate people from different expertise into your team so that you project a strong you project that you have thought through the entire product development phase, and have been able to tap people from different expertise who would be contributing to the product development. Then it is very important for you to have a novel idea. So we always ask the applicants or help the applicants in doing a prior art search. So SIIC would be conducting a separate webinar primarily on the doing prior art search and how to do it using Google patents, etc. So you can stay tuned for that webinar as well. The technical feasibility and the market barriers are also some of the things that evaluators pay attention to, and it is very important to think through those segments as well. The reason why, as I said earlier, there are 8 BIG partners who can help you in putting up your BIG proposal, but why choose us over others is because first of all, SIIC, I mean, other BIG partners are also helping, but SIIC puts in a lot of efforts in helping the applicants in putting up a good strong BIG proposal before the submission. We go through your draft proposal, we suggest what are the technical points which are missing, how you can develop the business plan further, and all those things. So we do provide that. And once your application has been submitted and you have qualified the online review round, we assign external experts. And I would quickly give you a glimpse of the external experts that we have at SIIC, and they devote at least 1 to 2 hours in a week to fine tune and polish your presentation further. We also provide, like I said, we also provide assistance in doing prior art search and preparing IP report for your proposal. And we have got like IIT Kanpur is, again, we started in 1959. So we've got an extensive pool of alumni who are always happy to help the startups, the innovators associated with SIIC in whichever way possible. And they do all of that pro bono. So all the mentorship and etc. that we provide, we do not charge anything for that. And these are some of the mentors and alumni who are part of our mentor pool. So we have people with business acumen. We have got people from the particular industry. And yeah, so this was all about the basics of BIG, and feel free to type in all your questions in the Q&A chat box. This session is being recorded, and this session would be uploaded on our YouTube channel, Incubator IITK. So I think we would be able to upload it in next 1 or 2 days, and you can check in our channel again to watch this video later. So here I would stop my presentation. I will quickly see if there are any Q&A related to my presentation. Okay, there is one question by Sandhya Singh. She wants to know, can I get funds for developing IT-based health project? Certainly, Sandhya, you can get funding for such idea, but make sure you have done good competitive landscaping, and yeah, the product or the idea needs to be novel. Then someone has asked me, you said TRL less than or equal to 3. Yes, the idea that you are pitching or the prototype that you are pitching needs to be less than, the TRL level needs to be less than 3. Is this at the end of 18 months or at the beginning of the project? I'm not sure if I understand that question. Okay, and then there's one last question by Sahil Gera. How can SIIC help with the presentation? What stage the help is provided? So for the presentation, Sahil, as I said earlier, it happens once you have qualified the online review round. So that's where we bring in the external mentors and the team of SIIC Kanpur. We help you in preparing your presentation. Okay, now I think we will start with Dr. Rao, and I would continue to take in these questions during this Q&A. So Dr. Rao, can you please turn on your screen? Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So for this webinar, we have actually collaborated with AIC CCMB, and So AICCCMB is also one of the Bionist incubation centers, right, Dr.
No,
Rao?
we are not.
Okay, okay. So yeah, um, should we begin with the Q&A, Dr. Rao?
Please
Or
go ahead.
okay. So the first question that I wanted to ask from you is, as a domain expert, can you list down some of the factors that a BIG aspirant must keep in mind while writing the proposal or while pitching their idea to the TEP experts? If I'm not sure, sir, if you can help, highlight these points using some case studies or something from your own experience of evaluating TEP, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. So from I think your introduction was should have given them some idea what gets funded. Obviously, it's a biotechnology ignition grant, so the applications are largely into biotechnology, life sciences kind of context. The second major criteria is there should be a clear potential for a business. The whatever ideas that one has, it should have a clear potential for it being a product or a process that can generate some business. So that is something very important in a proposal. So when we see what is it that clicks with some projects and not with others, if you want to look at it, uh, uh, some of the ideas that people come up with, they're a bit exploratory. They may be good ideas, all right, but when they are a bit of a basic thing, still trying to get their data together or something like that, if there is not sufficient meat around that idea, it's going to be a problem. Because say, I'll give you an example. Somebody has had an experience on say some fungi. If you grow that, it will give you some antioxidant compound. So the proposal will say, I will do some mutagenesis and then some kind of a strain improvement, and then this has a lot of market value. I'll increase its production, so it has a good market. It is correct in most of the aspects, all right, but mutagenesis, these things are very exploratory, or strain improvements. There is no particular novelty in it, or very little novelty, because novelty is another major criteria looked at in the BIG. So in fact, you can do many things, but there has to be a very clear spark of novelty in the proposal for somebody to be interested in looking at it further. So the clear potential, novelty are the major things that are looked at. And in addition to it, obviously, many of these things that comes out very clearly is the kind of commitment and passion to the project that is put up. Whether one can judge or gauge the commitment to a project by looking at the entire application, the kind of various parameters that they take into consideration. Like, if I have something, and who are my competitors? What is my IP freedom? What is the freedom to operate? And what is the where am I adding value? In the sense that this particular product, if it were to come into market, what kind of value addition compared to the competitors? That is another one. And another very important thing is the team strength. Many people are kind of think in the beginning that I come from a science background. I know what I'm going to do. And as I put up the application, I get the money. And then while doing this, I'll build up a team. It's not done. You have to imagine or plan your project in a way that it's going to survive and it is going to have all the necessary advice and counsel as part of your team in the application itself. Like many times what people do is they'll put their somebody, uncle or aunties who was a chartered accountant or somebody in business, they'll put their name saying that this is my business partner or something. And when we look at their CV, it looks nothing, they don't have any experience in that domain. All these things happen because people try to drag their application submission to the last day, and then suddenly realize some crucial things are missing. They'll just try to put in some name and try to get away with it. No, it has to be thought through in a very serious way right from the beginning. That is, you should have some business support system available in terms of as a person that who has a prior experience in a startup, startups basically. And what I said is, somebody should be, remember the end goal is it's a business. So what is it that is required for business is what you should have in your team. Like you should, if it is a kind of medical related thing, am I including some hospitals? If my work depends upon clinical samples, am I looking at the sourcing the clinical samples? Do I have a kind of a discussion with some hospitals, right? And try to get a consent letter for them saying that, when it comes to a stage where the hospital is willing to give some clinical samples. And also a good business person who would help you in planning the subsequent existence of the company, because formation of company is kind of critical. Though may not be in the beginning, but during the course of 18 months, once you form a company, then obviously somebody has to look at the business aspects of the business plan of that. So and when people write to that part of it, like, the future prospects and things like that of the company, they gloss over. They are not serious in the sense, or they don't understand. In the sense that how do you want to take this into the market, and what are your plans for marketing? They just simply say very loose words and things like that, and then think that is okay. So in various stages in an application, we understand by the choice of words and the choice of plan, we know how committed or how the person has thought through the seriousness of the project. So what happens is, sometimes if somebody says in the application, there is a thing called unmet need. Unmet need, everything is a kind of an unmet need in a way, because, if somebody is, say, today is giving you a COVID test for 400 rupees because people are not able to afford and we are not able to do large scale screening, then we'll say, I'll offer something at 150 rupees. So actually that's an unmet need in a way, because that need is needed, that has to be met. So then what happens is, one has to be very just have to think through in wording these unmet needs. What is the novelty? What is the value proposition? See, many times what happens is the people who apply for these BIG grants, most of them come from research background, must have spent in a lab or either PhDs or faculty or past MSc and things like that. They may have sat through a couple of classes in their master's program or bachelor program in some, part-time courses, but that's not sufficient. You will have to do a lot of your own market survey or the value of your proposition in comparison to what is there in the market, right? And many times what happens is, if you say, I have a product and today it is being offered at X price, I will offer it 0.5x price. Like, as I said, if something costs me 400 rupees, I'll give you at 200 rupees. Usually these are not very persuasive arguments beyond a point. Okay, and the reason being, today most of the problems are you're comparing the price today. Like for example, COVID test, government has fixed the rate at around 4,000 6 months ago. But now it is available at 500, 600 rupees. So what happens is with time, the whatever benchmark you have chosen will come down. The 400 rupees may become to 200. So it's actually equivalent to what you are proposing. So usually people look at when you are improving the cost, if your argument, if your technology is based on making a particular test or a product or a process cheaper, it has to be 3 to 4 times better in terms of costing. If it is only one time better, it's going to dissolve by the time you put the product in the market. Because remember, any medtech product or any biotechnology product that is going to be in the market, it will take from the day you begin, it will take at least 3 years. Okay, you finish your project in this, and then once you have a proof of concept and you are ready to go, then getting the regulatory aspects and things like that, it may take 1 more year. So by the time you put something in the market, you're looking at what is going to be the price point after 2.5 years or so. Am I competitive at that level when others are also improving? Probably the others that are improving may be big corporates. They can cut costs like very well compared to what you can do. So that's another way of looking at it. So the point here is one has to spend a lot of time and careful thought on the unmet needs, value proposition, and technical viability, team strength, and all of them very, very much a lot of time to do it. So what happens is sometimes people I see in many of the applications, they think they have an interesting trick, which is pretty good, but at the same time, due to confidentiality issues, what happens if I tell my idea in an application? Should I be saying it? If I don't say it, they don't believe me. But at the same time, if I say it, I may be scooped. So these kind of doubts will come. I agree completely that, if there is a very, very critical aspect of your technology that you cannot reveal, that is fine, but you should be able to allude to it without saying what it is. So many applications I see where they say, we have something very interesting, but we probably for confidentiality reasons, we can't say it. Then I can't make up your mind. You may say that I have improved by adding this particular compound. I can produce the biosimilars at 3 times the cost, 3 times the value that the currently a company is producing. Say if company is producing 1 gram per liter, I can produce it 3 grams per liter if I do this trick. And then if you don't reveal what the trick, I can't judge it. But at the same time, you don't want to reveal it because it's confidential. But you should be able to reveal the mechanism behind it, and what was your you should be able to tell somebody else who wants to fund you, because no funder would be interested unless they have certain clarity on the technology. So these are all some trick issues. And one of the things that somebody was looking at was how much should be the preliminary data. Preliminary data is always important. As I said in the beginning, one of the examples, say I'll improve my strain of fungi so that it produces one antioxidant better. And now that may be a very good viable idea. You must have done a lot of market research. Commercially it might cost 10,000 rupees per 100 grams. And then there is a market value, there is a huge demand and all that. But at the same time, yours is an open-ended one. You're not guaranteeing a path in your proposal. So some amount of preliminary data is always good, especially if it is a doable thing. Experimentally, if you are able to do it, you should be able to generate. Because what I see is more than 90% of the applications are coming from researchers, right? So these researchers already must have gone on to that particular technology or idea based on certain understanding or certain evidence. Unless that evidence is given, it's not going to be convincing. So some amount of preliminary data is always good. And now when it comes to, where IT is being used in life sciences or healthcare, then people would start saying that, I'll develop a new pipeline following AI and ML, and I will analyze the data in a way much more efficiently than whatever is currently possible. I can crunch thousands of proteomic data or genomic data to come up with very predictive models and all that. Such projects will also be considered. But at the same time, you should be able to say how that whole thing works and how it cuts the cost without saying probably what kind of flow charts you're using. That's very important. See, remember what happens is in the preliminary screening committees, it will go to 3-4 reviewers. And out of these 3-4 reviewers, probably one doesn't understand this particular detail, but others do understand. So you will come up with a situation where half of them are agreeing, half of them are disagreeing with the proposal. But definitely those things will be called to the presentation. They'll be called to the TEP because there is people. Normally, the tendency is tendency of BAG screening is inclusive, not exclusive. Right? We don't want to throw away people pick up some criteria that doesn't meet our requirements. It's not that. The BAG also gives good feedback on the criteria for either especially for rejection people, because people want to look at them, where was their application was shortfalling, right? And I can tell you 20 to 30% of the applications that come to any particular round of BAG have been submitted earlier. Okay, that means based on the criteria and the suggestions given by the preliminary evaluation committee, they'll incorporate them and then resubmit their proposal. Usually many times it comes twice or thrice, because people really are convinced they want to incorporate these changes or generate some preliminary data and come back. So this is allowed. So one should be looking at that also very seriously, that the suggestions need to be put in. But of course, for the first timers, that is not the thing that would help. How much when you write a proposal, it's very clear. I can tell you this very confidently, that how much time did you spend on various aspects is seen in your write-up. For example, somebody says application is in diabetes, and I have come up with a good marker from saliva, which is something. Then now they write about a big deal about diabetes, and then what is the global market versus Indian market and all that. They spend a lot of time on the market value and less on the technology. All of us understand whether it is TB or diabetes or cancer. We don't have to really justify the need for doing something new. It's obvious. But at the same time, we need to look at what specifically you're offering. How is it is better? Because I can tell you this, I can tell 90% of the ideas that have come up in BAGs that I've come across have been thought before. Okay, they have been thought before, and some way that particular problem has been resolved by some other means. So you will have to really spend, there is like I said, especially on the diabetes or TB side, or septicemias and so on and so forth, there are several solutions available out there. What are the issues related to that particular technology that is already in the market versus what is the value addition that you are making? And that's the reason the project should be looked at more seriously. So these things have to come out. That means you have to spend a lot of time on looking at what are all the solutions that are available in the particular domain you are proposing, and then carefully look at them. What are the costs? Look at their websites, cost, and talk to people. Try to get this information. Go to hospitals if it is a thing. Talk to people about their costs of doing a particular test versus yours. So all this comes into play. So all this, when you write a proposal, all this reflects. So though they look kind of very commonplace, unmet need, technical strength, value proposition. These are all serious matters. You cannot you cannot you cannot give information that is redundant. Like, for example, I've seen so many proposals. The choice of words are the complete texts are same that are given in the unmet section versus idea details versus technical viability and things like that. They use the same set of sentences. Then I know that they are really not spending time on addressing each of these subsections carefully. Okay, so all this, as I'm saying, all this will be we can. Having spent so much time at looking at these applications for the last 7-8 years, I can tell you whether somebody spent a serious time in writing the application or not. It's as simple as that. Because a lot of people gloss over the importance of the problem and not specifically the solution that they're offering. Or they do very basic or exploratory kind of proposals, which are not, again, one cannot look them very, they become borderlines and subsequently they may fall off the selection. So team strength is another thing that very important, but very many number of applications that is not given due diligence. And of course, business plan. Everybody says most of them, because it's the end of the proposal, they're tired by then. They'll write something very casual by saying that we will form a company and identify some market persons in the some stakeholders in the market, and we'll have a deal with them. It's not done. If you are applying for BAG, you have to wear the business hat. Think real. What will I do if I have really come up with a product, a proof of concept product by end of these 18 months? What am I going to do with that POC? Who are all my stakeholders? Who are all my partners, prospective partners with whom I can get into a deal and then do the next thing? All the 6 or 7 sections of the thing are important. Some people focus on one of them and leave the other. So that's where we see that, the person is covering only one aspect of the entire proposal. Please remember, in the end, it is business, clear commercial potential it should have, if one has to look at it in that sense. It cannot be purely science alone. Please remember that, because as I say, I'm a scientist for 30 years, so I know what excites me. Any new protein or new interaction excites me more than anything else. But at the same time, I should shut up and then think more like a business person. And you will be surprised, and you will find it funny. A very low some technologies that are low on science are big in success. So in business, it's not always the deep tech or deep science always sells. It is how do you make it happen to unmet need. And also another important thing is many people are excited, following up what I said about scientists being the PIs in these projects. They get excited and they think their idea is pretty good, and they don't care how much people need it. Unless, see, for a very simple example, there are so many solutions for people suffering with rare diseases. Solutions are out there, but nobody pursues them because there is no market. Because rare disease people are small in number, like COVID, the vaccination, trillions of dollars or billions of dollars were put in these things to put a vaccine in the market. But nobody cares because so many people are getting affected by COVID. But rare diseases, there may be few lakh patients in the country. Nobody cares because few lakh is not a big number to invest your business on. So it is a crude and cruel argument. But the point here is, unless there is a demand for it, don't do it. Okay, so this is another big mistake a lot of people make, is have something very interesting, but let me see, develop it and see what, see it and put it as a product. But unless there is a need for it, you're not going to be able to make a cut. You might come up and say that, the Walkmans did not have a market value when they were discovered, when they were or iPad didn't have I will create a market. But that's a big deal. Maybe you can. Sometimes people are so smart, they can create a market with their product. I'm not denying those. But the point here is, if you are talking about something that is familiar, you should be able to judge the demand for it. Unless there is a sufficient demand, you're not going to survive. And along with it, the other argument is ability to scale up. You cannot come up with a technology that cannot be scaled. Okay, scaled in the sense, go to the next level of production. Today I'm making 10 milligram or 10 grams or something. I should be able to make it in kgs or hundreds of kgs. So a technology should be looked at as a scalable technology, because that's what will work. You should think of those things. Sometimes people, you are concerned about the technology and its limitations. All of them come through in your application if you pay attention. So that's what I think. For me, when I read an application, I know, besides the quality of the idea, I know how sincere the PI is. Right? So that's what I think. Maybe I should stop here and then maybe take few more questions. I've been talking for 20 minutes.
No, thank you, sir. That was clearly, you laid out some of very critical points, especially like the in fact, there are certain questions around the confidentiality as well in the chat box. And for all the applicants who are applying for BIG, see, we understand that you have concerns and apprehensions around the confidentiality of your idea. But let me tell you, all the experts who are involved at various stages of evaluation process, all of them sign an NDA either with the BIG partner or with BIREX. So confidentiality is actually maintained at all the different stages of evaluation. And as Dr. Rao said, that you have to reveal enough information so that the evaluators can actually judge your proposal and presentation. So yeah, and then the other point related to don't give redundant information across all the different segments of the BIG proposal.
Yeah.
So yes, so before we go for the next question, let me pick a couple of questions from the chat box. So there was this person who wanted to know how to ensure an IP protection around an AI ML approach for diagnosis application, and how to ensure novelty.
How to ensure novelty is not a valid question, because it's already novel. If it is novel,
yeah.
How to protect novelty is probably what it meant. Okay. See, like one of the things in the BIG itself, there is almost, you are allowed to spend 1.5 lakhs towards IP, right? So, and also BIG partners themselves give you a lot of support in IP. I mean, all the 8 partners, they have in-house experts on IP who can advise the BIG grantee about what kind of steps one should take to protect their IP. So either if somebody already has a IP stage idea in a bioinformatics, I think they should be able to apply for a copyright on the software or something like that, which is not going to cost you a lot of money. But I think that can be done at the time of, if they are awarded the BIG grant, they should be able to do it very quickly. That's not an issue. And as I said, all, like your center or our center or anybody, all the incubators have very strong relations with mentors in IP domain. They would help you in the beginning itself how to take care of the IP related issues to any project. That's not there.
Okay. I hope that answers your question. Then there was one more question around is there any potential for working on biome based solution? Mr. Prabhakar, I think you have to be little more specific.
I can probably understand.
Okay.
Biomes are, say, for example, today, metabolomics is not metabolomics, any biomes like genomic or, gut microbiome or all these things are big deal. And so uh, generally it is, what happens is in a biome, unless you have a very strong justification, say, for example, I can give you, I can think of quickly a project. I'm going to look at people who suffer with heart diseases and then want to look at their gut microbiome and look at the people who are not suffering heart diseases. I will come up with a solutions where if I have this probiotic, the cardiac patients will have better. Yes, there maybe you can support with 1 or 2 papers on that, but that's not going to fly unless you provide some additional data, something that is much more. These experts that normally review these proposals, they are well aware of the literature. So actually these will go to a very specific experts. In fact, each by big partners have a large panel of reviewers, and they don't give them randomly. They look at their keywords of expertises and then give them. So they know exactly what proposal means. They can quickly understand what a proposal is saying in terms of a biome research. I can sell anything, and like I will do between a healthy patient and a healthy person and a patient, I will do microRNA analysis and then come up with a signature that tells me about this particular disease. Yeah, there are so many efforts done in that direction. And if you are saying only that, then it's a problem. Some people come up with a preliminary data saying that I have 5 markers. These 5 markers are telling me a great deal of association with that particular disease. Now I wanted to confirm it instead of in doing it in a blood sample. I want to do a tissue sample, or I want to do in a clinical samples. That is fine. You are trying to take it from a simple TRL 3 to 4 or 5 by 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 getting a lot of clinical data on those things. So those things are okay. But most of the biome research, I'm not saying no to a biome proposal, but at the same time, it has to come up with a good justification why that should be taken seriously. Right?
True. Yes, sir. Then there's question by anonymous attendee. He or she is asking regarding team members, if there's a limitation in attracting business related background member during application because their work cannot be compensated, how will this detrimentally affect the perspective of the proposal?
Usually the compensations are not really talked about in the beginning. It comes much later. But what convinces the reviewers is, how did you pick up these? See, at the time of taking consent, you're not paying anything. You are taking somebody's consent based on their expertise and how they can contribute to the project when it comes through. Right. So once the grant comes in, there are probably certain ways of compensation for the advice that you might get in that. But in the beginning of the proposal, that's not really an issue, because you don't have to really pay an expert to be part of a team to begin with. In fact, you should be equally excited like you in being part of the team. It's not that you are forcing it, you are buying an advice at the beginning of the proposal. They genuinely believe in your efforts and the project, and then are willing to be party to it. Probably, in these startups, people are not so greedy at that point of time. They may become greedy once you're successful. But when you're growing, a lot of people give you a lot of friendly advice. In fact, if a person is interested, they should approach the incubator for advices on whom they should call, they should contact based on their project, because incubators have a larger mailing list of mentors. So, like for example, the Aditi was talking about how they help the applications. When you go to them with your applications and seek an advice on whom should they be calling for this particular help, I'm sure they will give you half a dozen choices whom you can talk to and include them depending on the suitability. That's what I think. Sorry.
Okay, sir. Before I take the next question from the chat box, I wanted to take your opinion. So, uh, the Indian government nowadays is focusing on import substitution, especially there was a need for made in India products when that need got considerably highlighted during the COVID time. So, if we receive, if a person is trying to put in a proposal which falls under this theme, how does that person and see, let's say that the applicant is just simply assembling all the components and making the device. So how does that person address the point of novelty? And clearly there's an unmet need, so that point is validated, but how does he take care of the other factors related to the novelty and creating an IP around that particular solution? So
yeah, that comes under probably the new mandate of the government on Atmanirbhar Bharat, where they wanted a lot of things to be done indigenously. Of course, we can't from day one do everything indigenously. Probably, as you said, we can import components and then put them together. We are aware of several companies that are doing it, but here again, the novelty again comes in terms of costing. Like, it should not cost the same thing as the imported one. But again, the second thing is how robust and how the device meets the quality standards of, international quality standards. Right? I mean, they're obvious, they're available, these standards. So you should be able to come up with, like if I'm trying to make an RT-PCR machine, in the end, it is nothing but a couple of heating elements,
right.
and control card that does the job properly, and some maybe some fix to some extent. I mean, it looks simple for probably an electrical or mechanical engineer to put these things together. But at the same time, you have to come up with a product that looks good and then looks robust, and in terms of reliability and all that. So definitely there is an opportunity, and there should be some amount of novelty, not only in terms of cost. Like, if I'm able to do it in 50 microliter reaction, can I do it in 20 microliter reaction? And or something, my sensitivities are better than what is market and things like that. So yeah, I mean, these are all some difficult proposals to evaluate, but when it comes to it, it's not really difficult, because how they write it and how they understood the landscape of the technology. Because one can quickly judge the understanding of a proponent, a project proponent, on how they understood the landscape. Because I can always come up with, many applications that come to us says, like, they come to me, they'll say, I'm going to come up with a lamp-based marker detection in 3 hours or 4 hours for septicemia patients, which is not possible otherwise. And I can detect, along with the septicemia, I can look at other clinical parameters in the same machine. Yes, but then I'll try to look at it. What was his prior experience in designing a product of that kind? It's easy to say, but at the same time, do you have either yourself or your team members have that experience in that particular game? Saying an idea like this is quite easy, but at the same time, do you have some expertise in some part of that project? like whether it is designing of an equipment or some kind of analytical experience and things like that. So yes, these projects will be looked at and they'll be looked at it positively, but at the same time, very strong criteria are given to the experiences and team strengths. Because as you were mentioning, biotechnology or medtech is a collaborative and multidisciplinary exercise. So these things will come through in the preparation of the project. I won't miss it.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, sir. Okay, moving on to the next question by Sahil Gera. So he wants to know, can you please discuss on the challenges of medical device certification, especially for the interventional devices? It does require huge time and funding. How to deal with it?
Yeah, in the big grant, usually, it's not an issue because big grant is still coming up with a minimum viable product or proof of concept. But at the same time, if you are very clear, right from almost the beginning of a big project, you should be discussing with regulatory people with which most of the incubators will have Lizon. Okay, you should discuss with them and then they would be able to tell you what are all the safety, biosafety, or what kind of certifications are required. Do you go to CDCSCO or what kind of clinical data you should obtain before going there? And what are the timelines involved? All these things would be very much the regulators will be able to help you very much. In fact, one can read them because CDSCO site itself is very extensive. One should look at that carefully, and they give you very various forms and various timelines that are involved. So there is a lot of information out there in the net. It's only how you make sure of it. But at the same time, the question is the timelines involved and the funding required. A regulatory advisor or a mentor with each incubator would be able to help you, right? It's not a big challenge. It's a challenge, all right, because once you say interventional, there is always certain patient compatibility and safety issues need to be met. So a regulator will be the right person to help you, and these are available with this incubator, right?
Right, sir. Yeah, one thing that I would like to highlight here is, and I'm really sorry I completely missed that point in my presentation. So once you have received the BIG grant, in the sense that your proposal has been approved, it is mandatory to be physically incubated at an incubation center. So yeah, that's the reason, the reason why BIREC emphasizes on this physical incubation is because of the reasons that Dr. Rao just touched upon. We have access to the mentors. We can liaison with the CDSC or the regulatory people and, bring in the relevant experts for you, so that you can start working on the idea in a more streamlined and in the correct direction.
You should also add, the money that is given in any BIG grant for equipment is only 30% of it. So usually it will be around 15 lakhs or so. You can't do a project with 15 lakhs in terms of equipment requirements for biotechnology. Usually you have to depend on larger infrastructure that incubation centers offer. So you need more equipment to get most of the BIG grants. So the incubator would not only offset some of your equipment needs, the advisors and things like that. Yeah.
And you can pay rent, exactly. Yeah, of course you can pay salary to the manpower, and you can also withdraw the rent money to be given to the incubator from the BIG fund, which is given to you. Yeah. So I think we have already overshooted the time here. We have scope for taking one or two more questions. Actually, I had couple of questions myself for you. Those were related to the pricing strategy, sir. Because as you said, a majority of the applicants who apply for DIG come from hardcore research background or academic background. So if you could share a couple of tips on the pricing strategy, because yeah.
Yes, I mean, uh, one is looking at typically the other companies that have put up a product similar to your particular product, like uh, uh, say, uh, let's say RT-PCR itself, for example. Say today, if you are making an RT-PCR machine, what are all the currently available suppliers of RT-PCR machines, and what are their costs, and what are their specs in terms of how many samples they can handle, how quickly you can do it. There are certain criteria you can pick up, and then put yours next to it, and then say what are all the things that I'm going to offer. If something, a market one costs you around 8 to 9 lakhs, you're going to come up with something that is around 2 to 3 lakhs or something, and then you say you can address more colors, fluorescent colors, I mean, and also you can do more samples, and there are certain flexibilities which the other companies don't have. I mean, I can run 5 reactions instead of filling the whole plate or something like that, and duration of it, and some amount of sensitivities and things like that. So you pick up that are very specific advantages with your product, and then highlight them in comparison with it. So that will give you, again, you will, when you arrive at your own price point, people would ask you a bit embarrassing questions. So on how you arrived at that. You cannot just put some price lower unless you back it up with some kind of a your own calculations or information. Unless you provide it, it's not going to work. And many times what I see is people, when they show data, they say it is taken from the literature or from the internet, but they don't give you the reference. Okay. When you don't give the reference, I do not know whether how genuine it is, because I want to check. I want to check the information you're providing by saying that, so-and-so company is selling it for so price. I wanted to check. Unless you are transparent on those counts, it's not going to be. These are the things that we look into. Say, when you're providing information, I will not take any information provided by an applicant on its face value alone. I want to cross-check that. That's what the reviewers are for. We look at that. Somebody cannot say a diagnostic test that costs 1,500, I can give it for 200 rupees, and almost using the same components, maybe in a different way, but using the same components. So you may be right, but I want to make sure that you are right. Right. So we will spend time on looking at your own cost calculations, and all those things will come up when you're writing about your proposal. Okay, I mean, what is the attention to detail that you have given while doing this? Some people just put number, but some people will say, I have done this costing based on following criteria, assuming each of the component costs of this, so I'm able to do it. So that gives me a better feeling on a person's attention to detail. If somebody says it's 200 rupees and then leaves at it, I do not know how he came up with that number. So there is always a scope. See, there are things like adding additional documentation in the proposal. You will have to use those things and say, this is the costing document. Many people don't do that. Like, they just put Aadhaar cards and passport pictures and some CV, and they don't use the other documentation in a way that support their application. I have not seen anybody putting in other documentation any additional information that's not provided. Then I think, okay, these guys are, these are all, I'm not saying you should put additional other documents just for the heck of it, but what I'm saying is to support, to justify how serious and sincere you are in your proposal that comes through.
Thank you, sir. One last question before we close the session, sir. So this is by Abhay Goyal. He's saying, so we have made a novel plant antivirus, and as of date, there's no product in market offered for plant viruses. My innovation is recognized by Agni, and also a patent search says that no such product with this combination occurs. Is this good enough to apply for BIG 18?
Yes, which one is this? Who is this? Abhay?
Abhay Goyal, yes.
Is it the end of the things?
You can refer to the answered question, sir.
Okay, Abhay Goyal. Can I check? Okay, I'm seeing it. Says it's me, but where is the question? Okay, just say it again, the first part.
Okay, yeah. So Abhay has made a novel plant antivirus, and as of date, there's no product in the market offered for plant viruses. My innovation is recognized by Agni, and also a patent search says that no such product with this combination occurs. Is this enough to apply for BIG 18?
Of course. I mean, there's no question about it. Because one thing is antivirals in plants is very important. Usually it's done only by vector control. If he has something, something novel that kind of addresses the problem, that's good. Many times, I mean, I'm not saying anything about prior recognitions, but, BIG is much more a domain-specific expert system, so that they will have a much better idea to look at a proposal than something that happens at a slightly earlier stage like Agnis and things like that. So what I'm saying is definitely you should be putting it up and taking some of the suggestions that were discussed today. And there is no question about if you believe that your system doesn't have any solution by others, and also you have something very interesting, I mean, you should apply. You should apply. And because agriculture is, if you look at one of the 7 areas in agriculture, and there is also one more subsection in it, which directly looks at these kind of solutions. So you should not hesitate to submit.
He also says that he's in touch with Advanced Center for Plant Virology, Pusa, Delhi, for its evaluation mechanism. Although we have a couple of more questions to take, I don't know about your schedule, Dr. Rao. Do you think we can take
one more? Will do.
Okay, so let me pick up the most persisting one. Okay, so again, this is by Sahil, and I think this would be relevant for all the audience. So he's asking, once a proposal is submitted to BIRAC, how far can we modify it before the TEP round? Since TEP usually takes around 3 to 4 months from the time of submission, a lot of other preparations are done during this time, which can change the proposal a lot. So your comments on this would help.
Usually, I mean, it is difficult. Reason for it is one should be able to incorporate some anticipated outcomes in the proposal itself. But what happens is in the preliminary screening, it'll go, all the applications that are received by deadline are treated similar. So you cannot, you can probably do it in the TEP. That is, when it comes to TEP, you can make the presentation. But for coming to TEP, that preliminary data may not be helpful. You can't modify before the TEP round. So that becomes too much of an issue, and it's only a matter of 2 months actually. From the time of applications to TEP, it will be 2 months. So one wouldn't imagine there would be a kind of sea change in the data in those 2 months, because that's one part. But the second part is we can't give that opportunity to, if you're not giving the same opportunity to everyone, then it becomes a problem to handle. So it is not 3 to 4 months, it is less than 2 months. Once after the last date before it comes to the TEP stage. So we shouldn't be looking at it. I mean, we can normally they don't entertain any additional data before the TEP. In TEP, once you are in TEP, you can make that presentation. Then it is okay, because you are coming there personally and presenting the data. Right?
All right. Yeah. So this brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Dr. Rao, for sparing 1.5 hours from your hectic schedule and interacting directly with the DIG aspirants as well as applicants. This session was actually quite useful because although as DIG partner, we do tell all these points to the applicants, but when it's, these points come from an expert who sits on the evaluation panel, it adds a lot of weight to the points. And I'm sure the applicants would now have taken a good note of all the points you mentioned. I have certainly done that. And yes, hopefully we would, this would enhance the quality of their proposal.
I'm sure it does. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you again for giving me a chance to speak to you.
Yeah, certainly, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too, sir. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.